Welcome to our July session of Globe Observer Connect. My name is Kristen Weaver. I'm the Deputy Coordinator for the Globe Observer Project. We also have some other Globe team folks on here. Holly Cole, who's the Project Coordinator for Globe Observer, Teresa Schwerin, who's the Principal Investigator for the NASA Earth Science Education Collaborative, sort of our broad overarching funding source, and then Cassie Sofing also, and Teresa's with IGES, the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. Then we have Cassie, who is with IGES as well, and is our webinar host this evening. But so the purpose of these Globe Observer Connect sessions is to get a chance to talk to subject matter experts about things related to Globe Observer and Globe Observer data being collected. And so the purpose is to have a conversation. We'll have a little bit of a presentation, but we really hope that you have some good questions to ask of our presenters. So our two presenters this evening are Samantha Bora, who's a NASA intern and graduate student at Sitting Bull College, who's earning a master's degree in environmental science with a focus on air quality. She has 2 years teaching experience at Standing Rock Community High School and Mobridge Pollock Middle School, and she is the mother of 5 daughters. So we also have our own Marley Colon Robles, who is our project scientist for NASA Globe Clouds, and she's based at NASA Langley Research Center in Virginia. And she works with scientists on ways to include citizen science data into research, as well as with students and teachers around the world to engage students in real-world STEM activities and in authentic science through the Globe program. And so our topic today is about air quality and the blog that Samantha and Marley co-wrote about fire in the sky and some of the air quality observations. And without further ado, I will pass it off to Samantha and Marley.
Thank you so much. So we're going to hear from Samantha first. We're going to describe or give a brief summary of the blog post and what was observed directly by Samantha. And then I'm going to share at the end, how can you still collect observations of smoke or any other activities like that, and resources in case you have students or want to educate others about this. So Samantha, I'll pass it on to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Samantha Bora, and I, through part of my internship work, I was working with students in Mobridge, which is where I live in South Dakota. You can see on the map here, it borders the Standing Rock Reservation, which is where I'm from. I'm a citizen of the Standing Rock Nation. And so I was working with students doing Globe activities. So we were doing sky color, sky visibility activities. I worked with students in grades 3 through 12. Just doing those activities and trying to expose them to the world around them, like get them to be making observations instead of just looking at their screens or whatever. And it happened that like the next week was we had a really bad smoke event that came through. Our air quality rating was the worst that it could be. And we were able to, can we look at the next slide? Thank you. So this is what our numbers normally look like. We normally have pretty clean air, but we do get smoke from wildfires quite often. And most of the people that I talk to about it, we don't usually worry about it. We're usually like, oh, it's kind of hazy looking. We must have some smoke. And so through these lessons, I learned myself, and as through my studies in my grad program, quantifying that air and the health impacts that it can have to be breathing that in. And so it was really neat that I worked with these students. We talked about the PM 2.5 data. We looked at the EPA smoke and fire map. We talked about the purple air that they have at their school. And so when the smoke event happened, they were able to make those connections with the activities that we did the previous week. So when they were looking at the sky, even my own kids, because I worked with them as well at the school, they were talking about how, oh, what does that sky color look like? What is the visibility? They had their little paper up with the cutout, and we were looking at the sky. And so kids then were telling their parents and their family members about all of these things. So it was really kind of neat to see this lesson kind of come full circle. So we talked about this, and then this event happened, and they were able to make all of these connections. So the next slide shows that smoke on the roof. We were installing a Pandora instrument on the roof of our new research facility here at Sitting Bull College in Fort Yates, North Dakota. And so we were up, it was beautiful, clear day, and then the wind picked up and the smoke started coming through. And this is what it looked like as the smoke rolled in. The following picture shows a time series graph. And I use data from the EPA air monitoring stations listed here. And so the smoke came from like northwestern North Dakota down from Canada. And so you can see the peaks in the time as it traveled down into North and South Dakota. So you could really see how that plume moved down through. And I guess that's kind of a summary of what I have to say.
Thanks, Samantha. As a reminder, here's the event from the AirNow. So we wanted to make sure that all of you knew about the AirNow website, airnow.gov, where you can look at past events like the one that Samantha experienced with the students, current analysis, and then forecasts for up to 2 days out so that you know what's happening in your air. The neat thing is that the instruments that the students are using at their school get fed in through the EPA website, and there's a correction for them. So there's a direct link. So as more instruments get added, there's a better representation of the air quality. Samantha was saying how there's the closest air quality is about 100 miles. Is that right, Samantha? Yeah. And so it's important for even these sensors that schools are installing. They're very good representative. We wanted to highlight that we wanted to let you all know that there's other groups working on this topic. The GLOBE program has the Agents of Change episodes, and there's an episode number 3 with the Mescalero Apache High School in New Mexico that we invite you to watch and look at these high school students putting one of these sensors as well in their school and using their language to code in order to practice their language, but also get the data out of the instruments. Thank you all. For those of you that have reported, there have been some events. I pulled some of the events from early June, but anytime, as long as it's safe, to do so, we welcome observations because these are unique events and it's really good to report them. How you do them, even though it's clouds, but you can go into the clouds tool in the Globe Observer app, pick obscuration. Obscuration means that there's something blocking your view of sky and clouds. And then you can then select smoke and then follow the steps to take your observations or your photographs, but also you can use the app to take your own observations if it's something coming from the horizon. And then we want to remind you that looking at change or documenting change is also important, and the Globe Observer app has other tools to measure that, like land cover and mosquito habitat mapper. And so after an event like a fire, if there's a fire near you, again, whenever it's safe to do so, you can use the other tools to document the change. And then if you are a teacher, like Samantha has, she's been doing summer camps all this week with middle schoolers, there's some neat activities that you can also look at. So these are all our slides, and we're going to open it up now to any questions.
Thank you so much for giving kind of that overview. And I put the link for the blog in the chat that has a few more details, and if you want to watch that video. And we do actually already have one question in the chat from Adrian. He says, great teachable moment. What did the students think of the assignments?
I think most of them liked it while they were doing it. And I think it just added that layer after this experience came through. I heard more about how much they enjoyed it after the smoke event came through. We live in a small community, so I had other parents telling me like how their kids were coming home and telling them about how to determine the visibility in sky color. So it was really neat to see, kind of the kids teaching their parents or guardians, adults in their lives.
No, and that was something that struck me as well when you were talking about it earlier, is that idea of here's something that the kids can take back and tell their parents, something that and kind of that role reversal and being able to share something new and be the experts in something, which I have to imagine that some of them enjoyed a lot.
Yes, even my own children in my family, my younger ones were telling my daughter, who I didn't work with, my 15-year-old, they were like, you know what this means? So it was really cool to see.
Well, and they're going to remember it so much better by having explained it and told somebody else about it. It'll solidify that learning a lot more, I expect.
And Samantha, do you want to comment on how the schools were calling you to figure out what to do with the kids?
Yes. That was just crazy. So, I did this, I worked with teachers, I worked with the principal, the students. And so then when the smoke event happened, the teachers, one in particular was really concerned about recess. And she's like, I don't know who else to ask because we get smoke frequently and we don't think much of it. And so I was actually talking to the principal about something else. And it came up and he's like, oh gosh, yeah, I didn't think about that. And so, we did look at the purple air map and the EPA fire and smoke map, and they made the decision to not have the kids go outside for recess. And we actually had the regional track meet scheduled for that day as well. And so that was postponed until 2 days later. So this awareness helped make decisions that are going to impact people's lives and their health. So it was I was just surprised at like how far this went. So it was a good experience.
Well, and I'm afraid, unfortunately, we're just going to see more of these events. I'm afraid that we're just going to have to deal with it. I mean, I didn't know before we had some issues here in the DC area that there was even a maroon on the scale. I guess I had never looked at that air quality scale. I didn't know that it went all the way up to maroon. I mean, I don't remember. I don't know how bad it got in your area, but that was kind of shocking to me.
Yes, and it got up that far and I sent the EPA guidance for schools on air quality, and that wasn't even listed as an option. I'm sure it was like, that's just so bad that.
Right, yeah. So we do have another comment in the chat, and I'm not sure, Diogo, I think this particular presentation tonight is not in reference to a specific campaign. So I'm not sure you asked a question about, is there a WhatsApp group to share ideas and news about this year's campaign? So I'm not sure exactly which campaign you're referring to. What we're talking about tonight is not related to any particular data collection campaign. I think I would say, although you can always collect dust and smoke observations and submit observations of obscurations, as Marley was explaining earlier, but we don't have anything specifically focused on collecting these types of observations as far as like a data collection campaign right now. And do you want to add anything to that, Marley?
No, just the social media in our Globe Observer webpage is the best way to see if there's any data calls like we're having with the moon trees and in the past with Where's the Water.
Yeah.
I was wondering if Samantha wants to talk a bit about being a NASA intern.
Like the work I'm doing, is that so we're establishing a research site here at Sitting Bull College, and so some of my work, I've been working on helping to coordinate ordering and installation of the instruments on the roof, and now I'm trying to kind of really dig into my research, which is going to involve smoke. So this event kind of helped me decide on my thesis topic. So I'm going to be doing that research as part of my internship and as well as for my thesis for my graduate program. And so I'm looking at data from Air Now and analyzing that. I'll continue to do that as my part of my internship and my graduate work.
And Teresa asks in the chat, love hearing the stories of your experiences. Was there anything really surprising that you or your students learned or experienced?
I think the biggest thing was just the awareness. And I think that's something that continues to happen now. You know, this was brought to everyone's attention that this smoke really can be bad for us. One of my friends was talking to his mom about this as well. And she was out working in her garden one night and she's like, I came in and I looked at those websites that you guys told me about, and the air quality it wasn't all the way into the red, but it wasn't, it might have been orange. And she said she could feel it like even in her lungs after she had come in from gardening. And she's like, I should maybe check that before I start going outside and spending hours out there doing physical activity.
Right.
So I guess the awareness overall is just, you know, as a teacher, you want kids to be excited about learning. And so when you do a lesson and then they see how it applies, like, it's just like a dream lesson. I mean, of course, it's horrible like that. We don't want this bad air quality at all, but it's just really cool how that all just came together, and, you know, it's continuing to impact these students.
And Teresa further adds, data and information is power. And I think that's certainly true. And I think, you know, on the worst days, you can feel it when you go outside, but even on the days that are not quite as bad, and so you might not notice it, but it's still potentially causing problems with your lungs in the long term. So I think, yeah, that knowledge that you need to pay attention to it, not just when you actually have trouble breathing or can smell the smoke, but also at other times when it's maybe more borderline, but still, you know, perhaps not better to go out, but better not to go out and work in the garden that day. Wait for another day if you can. Or even I actually have a coworker who bikes to work, and on the bad smoke days, she put on her N95 mask because at least she thought that's going to help some, because that's the only way she could get into work. So she had no choice, but she at least can protect herself a little bit from some of the particulates. So another question from Adrian, were any connections made with Indigenous ways of knowing, Dakota, Lakota, or otherwise?
Is this in regards to like the smoke? I'll answer it as that. That I don't have a lot of knowledge on that. I know that there are teachings that go with fire. I'm not sure about the necessarily the air pollutants from that. So that I personally can't answer.
Okay. Steve asks, do you have a monitoring component for tracking and documenting levels of Sahara air level, SAL, that blanket skies and have major air quality issues in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico? That sounds like a question maybe for Marley.
Yes, I'll take that one. So, Steve, I don't know if you know, but I'm from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and aerosols was the first thing that I studied as a chemistry major, and my professor, Dr. Olga Mayor Bracero, started a whole monitoring system in Puerto Rico. It was kind of brand new. So there are now monitoring systems. Thanks to her, there's different instrumentations, and there's Aeronet station that she was able to establish to track Saharan dust levels, particularly if I remember last year, it was quite intense in Puerto Rico. And I believe there is also in U.S. Virgin Islands. So it has picked up in the last 10 years. So there are monitoring stations out there, not necessarily in the citizen science program. I haven't checked the PM 2.5, the purple air, but at least scientific wise, there are, and it has been growing. So great question, Steve.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mohammed asks, please talk about some of the questions that the students asked. Were there any questions that surprised you? Or maybe misconceptions they had about how all of this works that sort of surprised you?
I have to think back on this a moment. It has been a couple of months actually since we did this.
I mean, I guess were any of them surprised about how far the smoke was coming from or anything like that? I mean, I guess you were working with varying age levels. I don't know if all of them would have thought about how interconnected some of these Earth systems are.
Yes. Well, and the thing there is I worked with them before it had happened. And so, and a lot of the feedback that I got was not necessarily directly from the children. It was, my kids coming home and telling me about how they were talking with their friends and their teacher. And then also, other parents telling me like how cool it was that their kids learned about this. So at the time, we were doing the sky color and visibility activities. We did sky observations. We did cloud cover estimating. So it wasn't the big thing, I guess, when we were working on the activities was guessing the correct percentage for the sky or the cloud cover. So it wasn't necessarily tied to this, but that the kids got super into that because, they put up their picture and they'd be like, that has to be 90%. And it was like 60 or something. And so that was for those activities before the smoke event, that was really the most engaging one that kind of got everyone fired up.
Yeah, that is a fun one. That is a good activity.
Mm-hmm.
Angela asks, do you think any of the students have a stronger interest in this topic or science after this experience?
I hope so. That's my hope. And I feel like by the feedback that I'm getting, they maybe aren't coming right out and saying like, oh, I want to be a scientist now, but I feel like by the feedback I'm getting that, they're thinking about these things. They're starting to think like a scientist. And so I'm hoping that that interest will continue to build. And I'm hoping that they can continue to do these types of activities. I know some of the kids that they said they wanted to download the app and do observations over the summer. So I'm hoping that more activities like this and more connections to real life events, hopefully not like horrible with the air quality, but
yeah,
we'll continue to kind of foster that.
And I think there's some evidence. I think there's some research that's been done about that having relevance to kids' lives. If you can connect topics and have things that have relevance to them, that can really that can just make them more interested in it. And that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of logical, right? That if it's that learning things just for some people get very excited just for learning facts for the sake of facts, but many people want to have some connection for why is this important? Why does it matter?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And I think that's why this was just so awesome for me, because that's literally exactly what happened. This smoke event impacted all of us. And so to be able to kind of have the kids tell the story behind what was happening was really cool.
Yeah. And there was a question from John about a fire in the sky talker session at the meeting in Denver. And you mentioned earlier you have a poster, and I think I saw some other air quality related sessions also at the Globe annual meeting. But if you happen to be at the Globe annual meeting in Denver next week, you can stop by and see Samantha's poster and look for some other air quality opportunities to discuss air quality. And I think some of those sessions are going to be, I think mostly the keynote sessions are the only ones that are going to be available virtually. They're not doing a truly hybrid conference this year, but I think a few of the keynotes and some of the main sessions I think are going to be available online. I don't know if right away. It might be recordings later. I'm not sure of all the details, to be perfectly honest. But certainly it is a good opportunity to talk to people from all over the country and all over the world about their different experiences with air quality and measuring air quality. What else I'm seeing? I'm not seeing other immediate questions. I'm trying to think if I can come up with some other questions to ask. We've still got a few minutes left here. Are there other, so what do you've got the monitoring station on the roof now. What do you see as kind of next steps? Trying to get more monitoring stations, looking at other globe areas of research. What do you see as next steps?
Here at the college in regards to the lab that we're establishing. So we have the Pandora on the roof, and a salometer was installed about 2 weeks ago. And so we're going to be getting a PM 2.5 monitor installed, an ozone and a NOx monitor. So those are all hopefully going to be installed by the end of next month. So we're just continuing to build the lab up there. And so it should be fully up and running with all those instruments, hopefully by mid-fall is the goal there.
Do you also have more traditional weather station type measurements like temperature, humidity, wind speed, those sorts of things too?
Yes, yep, we have a weather station up, not directly on the roof, but up on the hill by our college. So yeah, we have that on campus as well.
So another question from Adrian, were you using the Globe Elementary materials on clouds, or were you using other materials?
I was using all Globe material. I'm not sure if it was from the Globe Elementary series. I know one of the books was for sure, but it was all of the materials on the Globe website that we were working with.
And then Bridget
Now you
asked,
did, oh, sorry,
go-
you did use the cloud window, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put the link to the toolkit, but you can, from there, you can see the cloud window. So you push the middle part out. It has pictures of the color of the sky and cloud types. And then you hold it up and you compare what you see in the middle to the pictures on around.
Yeah.
Right now we have it available. Yes, there it is. We have it available in English and in Spanish. So just let us know if you're interested.
and you mentioned the cloud estimation activity. I think that it was the one where you have like a blue paper and have the kids tear up a white paper and glue it on and make different cloud percentages. Yeah, and so that one that one's also available on the Globe website, and there's a simplified version, like a sort of shorter version that will be up on the website as soon as I finish the accessibility checks on the documents. That'll be on the Observer website. What else? There was also a question from Bridget about will you be presenting or students presenting at ACES, AISES, or SACNAS, SAC, NAS. I don't, those are not acronyms I'm familiar with, so I don't know if those are meanings.
I'm familiar with ACES, the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. I'm not sure on the other one, but at this point in time, I don't have plans to present there. Maybe later on, once I'm further in my own personal research, that's something that I would like to do. I am active in ACES, so that's something I would enjoy doing.
Great. Any last questions?
A totally unrelated question, but we may have, because the way I heard about this as being a solar system ambassador, we may have some other solar system ambassadors on the call right now. Have people been totally inundated this week about Northern Lights questions because of the University of Alaska at Fairbanks extended projection, and Associated Press just ran with a story without fact checking? Has anybody else experienced that? I mean, I've probably responded to 20 people in the last 4 days.
I haven't gotten direct questions, but I have definitely seen it posted in some of the social media groups, some of the neighborhood groups that I'm part of, and for the most part, other people have gotten to the corrections and pointed out that that's not accurate before I even got to it. But yeah, I did see a few this week.
Well, if this new prediction system is able to somehow do computer models to do more than 4 days out, as opposed to post coronal mass ejection and saying, okay, it's going 1 million miles an hour, it'll be here in 80 hours. That'll be pretty amazing, but
yeah,
nothing I've seen yet.
Yeah, no, it's easy. The disinformation spreads very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't it? Great to see. So we've got a lot of solar system ambassadors here. That's excellent. So I think we have hit 8:30. So just as for those who maybe this is the first time you're attending one of these, this is still a fairly new thing we're doing on the Globe Observer team, but check it out. We'll do them monthly, and we'll have a different topic, a different science expert research area. I think next month we're actually going to talk about some of the recent updates some of the structure on the Globe website and how accounts work and some of the app updates and things like that. So that will be what we'll do in August, but check the Globe Observer website, and the observer.globe.gov/go-connect will always update to the most recent, or the next coming of these events. So you can check that out and see what's coming up next, and register for the one next month and further on. And then just a little bit of a preview, I think for probably early September, we're looking at having some of our summer interns who are doing some work on Globe data to present about what they were working on this summer related to some quality flags and some satellite matching and some things with the Globe, the data from the Globe tools. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. And if you missed the beginning or anything like that, we'll try to get this up on the event page on the Observer website as soon as we can manage to do some editing and cleanup. But we really appreciate you coming out this evening, and thank you to Samantha and Marley for writing the blog and sharing the story, and for sharing your expertise and your experiences this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. For the air quality experts, there's a great question on the chat from our friend. I scrolled up.
It was, yeah, Steve Bogan. So
Steve.
this, I know we might have to cut it, but since I did it already the end, but monitoring equipment for citizen scientists to monitor landfill fires.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I would think that some of the purple air, looks like Margaret is answering that. I guess it depends on what you're trying to monitor from the landfill fires. If it's particulates, I would think some of the purple air sensors and such would work.
But if it's more the chemistry.
If it's more the chemistry, then I don't know. And Margaret, feel free if you wanna unmute.
Margaret or Kevin. Yeah, I know that you're both connected. Sorry, that was a really good question. And
no, it was a good question, and it came in after I'd already started my closing spiel. So
SO2. Okay.
yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't know anything that's inexpensive for monitoring that.
Okay, Margaret says for
sensor.
SO2 an AeroQual sensor. So that might be something, Steve, to look into, an AeroQual sensor, AeroQual.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah. Okay, well, have a good evening, everybody. And thank you, Cassie, for hosting us.
Anytime, Kristen, you know that.
Yeah. Bye all. See some of you at the Globe annual meeting next week.
So Samantha,